where the moon shines, where the moon shines. It's a dream that I just can't escape. When the moon shines, I say. Dream that makes me ever sing. Like a hot tent, lonely fever, let me burn. Just can't seem to shake this crazy dream. And I wonder what the hell it all means. It's a feeling that I lose again. Feeling like your hair, suddenly she's dead. Where the moon shines, where the moon shines, where the moon shines. It's a dream that I just can't escape. Come on. Moon shines, where the moon shines, where the moon shines. It's a dream that I just can't escape. When the moon. This one's Vigilante. This is off the album, The Warrior. Name is Kirsty, I'm your man. With the street of girl and I lose my plan. Feel coming to me, cause I'm a hero. No one can stop me. Let's say let's zero. Come on, come on. My wife was murdered, daughter's insane. She don't know that cause it's such pain. I like these sweet dreams night, killing when I stop. Till justice is brought to me, they're gonna drop. Vigilante, sing it, killing us today. Oh yeah, I'm a martyr, so stop me and play by, put it some new way. My name is Kirsty, I'm your man. Read the stream of love and I use my plan. People coming to vigilante, 'cause I'm a hero. No one can stop me, it's zero zero. Vigilante, because today, yeah, I'm a martyr. Stop it, bring back, put it some new way.
This one here. Chariot stated that in their opinion they're the most popular rock band in London at the moment. Quite a claim. We couldn't let them get away with that one. So I asked guitarists Scott Biaggi and Pete Franklin whether they were slightly misquoted in the piece, or was that what they really meant? By referring to an article that appeared in Kerrang magazine recently, I think you expected this question, in which you claim to be the most popular rock band in London at the moment. Was there a slight misquote there, or do you really mean that?
That night we probably were.
Talking about a show at the Marquee quite recently.
Well, and the night we did the interview. But that was slightly out of context. It was used to illustrate, well, the actual quote was used to illustrate another point, which perhaps should have been mentioned in the interview. But, I mean, on our level, we're possibly one of the most, if not the most, one of the most popular bands in London at that level.
And we're talking about bands who haven't got a major record deal.
That's right, yeah.
We're not going to get buggers.
Which is what? As far as the most popular band in London is concerned, I mean, obviously when a major band comes to town, they're the most popular band in London at that time. We were simply talking about bands on one level.
Right, well, there's no question that Chariot do have a following in London. What about when you play outside London, Pete? What's the audiences like up north, say?
Oh, yeah, they're great. And we don't really get much of a chance to play sort of up north or many places. We like to get about, obviously. But it's when we have done, like we did the support, was it, with Exodus and Venom, and even though that wasn't sort of like really our type of music, it was the thrash bands, and we're not. We still went down just as well, sort of, in London and that. Not so good in Holland, I think.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I think to a lot of people you are maybe considered a thrash band. You seem to have fallen into that category. Yeah, listen to your records, you obviously aren't. There's a lot more subtlety and melody about Chariot.
We've got songs, I think. Whereas, you know, with thrash, I mean, like, it's just, it's different. You're just really, I think, in there for the music, really. And to really get your head down and boogie.
Yeah. But Scott, Chariot do play quite a lot in Europe. I think France is a particularly happy hunting ground for you. And there is a big audience for that kind of music out there, isn't there?
Well, it depends if you're talking about thrash or our kind of music. In France, there's an audience for quite a wide cross-section of what we'd call rock music. There are a number of bands that go out there who aren't necessarily, you wouldn't consider thrash bands. And if you look at the French bands themselves, or perhaps a better indication of what the French are into, there are bands who are obviously influenced by things like the Scorpions, to AC/DC, to Iron Maiden, and they're not so, the French bands that we've seen don't appear to be very thrash orientated or speed metal orientated.
So how would you categorise Chariot's music then, Pete? I gather you don't think of yourselves even as a heavy metal band.
Well, we're bound to be classed as a heavy metal band, but like we're just, I think we're just a hard rock band, and it's not quite out and out. I mean, like heavy metal to me is what he said. It's like Judas Priest and things like Motorhead and things like that. And whereas we're sort of not quite as hard as that, but here and there we are, you know. But that's it. I don't care what the hell they call us, as long as we get on stage and have a good time.
Well, that's the point.
Apart from if they call us crap, you know.
Then you're not too happy about it.
I think as far as the label's concerned, we obviously attract a heavy metal audience. The people who come to see us will call themselves heavy metal fans. So in that sense, okay, we're a heavy metal band.
I think one thing about Chariot is you do have a sense of humour. And people don't think... I think people don't think that heavy metal bands do have a sense of humour. Is that very important to you?
Yeah, that is, I think, something that makes us a little bit different. Why we're building out? Because we don't go out wearing studs and leathers and that. We just like to go on stage in jeans and t-shirts. And then sort of it's like a connection with the audience to have a good time. They're having a laugh and so are we. We're enjoying it. They're doing it the same, and not to go out and to think that we're something incredibly different to them. Like, yeah, and all this business, whereas it's just you're really doing the same. You're into the same music, and it's just to have a laugh, yeah, to enjoy the music.
So, Scott, what would you say is the next step up the ladder for Chariot? I gather you've got some shows lined up in Europe.
There's a couple of festivals in France in June and July, and we're trying to either arrange for our own tour or a support tour with another band.
Would this be right throughout Europe, do you think?
This will be centred on France. If we can arrange gigs for further into the rest of Europe, then all the better. But at the moment, for the next couple of months, we're actually thinking of France.
Right, well, you also have a video coming out. It's a live video that was shot at a recent show at the Marquee. And we can see some Chariot on video now. This is a track called Screams the Night. And thank you very much for coming both into the studio.
Okay.